It will not be wrong to describe Pakistan as the oligarchy of generals. The military top brass have been ruling the roost for several decades now. The recent election results have significant implications for them. The generals have remained true to form and done what they have been doing since the country's birth. But Imran Khan's supporters have posed a mortal challenge to their hegemony. Before we go any further on the army's manipulative shenanigans and the civilian pushback, let us have a look at how the latest election results may affect Pakistan's political, economic, and strategic health. Candidates backed by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI, the party founded and led by Imran Khan, secured a stunning victory after bitterly contested polls. This despite Khan being barred from politics and put behind bars. In the weeks leading up to elections, PTI leaders faced arrests. Their protests were outlawed and the media gagged, which was part of a clear military led effort to sabotage PTI's chances in the elections. Now, at that time, forthcoming, now these elections are over. Independent candidates affiliated with Imran Khan's PTI have secured 93 assembly seats. Nawaz Sharif's PML-N won 75 seats. Bhutto Zardari's Pakistan People's Party or PPP secured 53 seats, and the Muttahida Qawami Movement of Pakistan MQMP got 17 seats out of 265 National Assembly seats. These are supposed to be official figures. There have been claims of the PTI having actually won 173 seats, but even the Pakistan Election Commission's figures show that the voters have rejected the military backing for Sharif's PMLN. Pakistan's military has historically been the most powerful broker wielding control over weak civilian governments through coercion and co-option. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, known to have close military ties in the past, claimed victory to form government, but he faces legitimacy issues. For the military, engineering an election win while jailing the principal opponent Imran Khan proved impossible because of PTI's popularity. For whatever reasons, unexpectedly large number of Pakistanis have voted in favor of the candidates affiliated to the PTI. The establishment may be forced to change tactics from overt threats to more subtle influence. Buying and appeasing Imran Khan's allies is not ruled out. After all, horse trading is a common feature of South Asian democracies. With no party having won a clear majority, a coalition government supported by smaller regional parties seems likely. Sharif has already invited the Pakistan People's Party and Muttahida Qawami Movement or MQM to join him. A potential coalition between PML-N, PPP, and other parties may secure majority seats. However, smaller parties might extract steep concessions for their support, given PML-N's lack of majority. And since Sharif is eager to become the Prime Minister again, so he may be forced to give concessions more than he would otherwise have. This could hamper governance. The military could still influence coalition building efforts behind the scenes to ensure that the national security policy space remains protected, regardless of public disappointment over electoral engineering. PTI's against the odds electoral victory has dented the military's image as the ultimate arbiter of power in Pakistan's fragile democracy. But the generals remain relevant in the absence of single party majority. Volatility that could weaken civilian rule without meaningful power sharing. If we go by the reports that several PML-N candidates were not allowed to win by the army, it is quite possible that the generals had manipulated the elections in such a manner that no political party gets the majority in the parliament. This would enable them to play the puppeteer with impunity, a role that they play with great aplomb. Although far-fetched, what if Imran Khan becomes the Prime Minister again? This is possible if the claim of 173 seats for PTI turns out to be true. Would that spell the end of the Republic of Generals? Pakistan is grappling with a severe economic crisis characterized by dwindling foreign currency reserves, high inflation, which is touching now 27%, and a widening current account deficit. The country faces a $1 billion bond payment which is due in 2 months, further straining the precarious financial situation. The $3 billion funding program with the International Monetary Fund expires on April 12. The new government would need to negotiate urgently to prevent default. An IMF bailout with strict conditionalities seems imminent, but reforms mandated by the IMF could stir public anger over rising inflation. Seeking aid from friendly countries like China and Saudi Arabia could provide temporary relief, but it will increase its dependency. Creating employment, tackling poverty and inequality also require long pending structural reforms, which range from tax policy to governance. Initiatives around CPEC have slowed because of political changes. Bringing projects back on track is important for the country's growth. The election stalemate has raised grave concerns about Pakistan's ability to tackle its economic crisis, secure crucial funding, implement reforms, and maintain internal stability. Pakistan's political and economic uncertainty may worsen. Restoring macroeconomic stability should be the topmost priority, including bolstering foreign currency reserves and bringing debt under control. Hard decisions around subsidy cuts, privatization, and austerity measures need political will. Pakistan's geographical location at the crossroads of South and Central Asia has strategic importance, yet also poses complex foreign policy and security challenges. Bordering Afghanistan, China, India, and Iran, Pakistan sits amidst multiple fault lines. Tensions with India over the disputed Kashmir region periodically spike, raising the risk of conflict between the nuclear armed foes. Pakistan also faces threats from domestic and cross border terrorism traced to groups operating along the porous Afghan Pakistan border. Securing stability in Pakistan is thus critical for regional security and global efforts to curb nuclear proliferation. Pakistan's relations with the major powers further complicate its geopolitical maneuvering. After the US withdrew from Afghanistan, the China Pakistan partnership has intensified significantly. Chinese investment in Pakistani infrastructure, energy, and ports through the China Pakistan Economic Corridor CPEC tops $60 billion. While boosting Pakistan's development, this nexus with China alarms the US and India. Meanwhile, the new coalition government in Islamabad will face the complex task of managing relations with the Afghan Taliban while containing domestic militancy. Despite stated counterterrorism commitments, militant groups retain influence within Pakistan. Navigating these interconnected policy dilemmas requires deft diplomacy and wise leadership. Pakistan aims to balance ties to competing major powers while asserting its national interests. Regional security and prosperity will depend on Pakistan's ability to consolidate domestic stability and peaceful relations with its neighbors. A less crisis-ridden South Asia is the ideal scenario, but getting there poses profound challenges for Pakistani statecraft. The history of Pakistan's military is a complex tapestry of conflicts, struggles, and political maneuvering. Let's explore how the Pakistan Army has wielded substantial influence over the country's governance. The history of Pakistan military's roots trace back to the British Indian Army regiments comprising troops and officers from today's Pakistan. The modern Pakistan Army was born out of military units allocated to Pakistan after the 1947 partition. Many early Pakistani military leaders like Ayub Khan had fought for the British during the World Wars, shaping the army's professional outlook. Despite its basis as a parliamentary democracy, the military rapidly emerged as the most cohesive and organized institution wielding power in the fledgling state, struggling with existential threats, massive refugee flows, and resource constraints after independence. Political stability has never been a feature of Pakistan's polity. The Dominion of Pakistan was established on August 14, 1947, upon the end of British rule in India. The Muslim League leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah became Pakistan's first Governor General, while Liaquat Ali Khan took charge as the nation's inaugural Prime Minister. Jinnah is considered the founder of Pakistan, having led the push for an independent Muslim homeland on the subcontinent. Jinnah died on September 11, 1948, just 13 months into Pakistan's existence. This first transfer of power was significant as it deprived the fledgling nation of its highly respected founding leader and guiding force. Liaquat Ali Khan took over additional powers in the aftermath. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan was shot dead on October 16, 1951, while addressing a public rally. His assassination caused tremendous political instability and conflict within Pakistan's government in the early years of its independence. Pakistan's first homegrown constitution was approved and implemented in March 1956, formally declaring the nation an Islamic republic. It established a parliamentary form of government with a national assembly and electoral process. On 27 October 1958, General Ayub Khan seized power in the nation's first military coup. He suspended the constitution, imposed martial law, and dismissed President Iskandar Mirza. He became the sole governing authority and president of Pakistan. This set the precedent for military rule. Public discontent had grown against Ayub Khan's autocratic policies and his handling of the 1965 war with India. Anti-regime protests erupted nationwide in 1968 and 1969. Ayub Khan resigned on 25 March 1969 and handed control over to General Yahya Khan. So one Khan to another Khan. And of course, one general to another general. After the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a majority in Pakistan's 1970 general elections, there were brazen attempts by the Pakistani military regime under President Yahya Khan to deny Mujibur Rahman's democratic mandate to form the government. This led to a civil war breaking out in East Pakistan in March 1971. The failure of the Pakistani military command to contain the civil war enabled India to intervene to support East Pakistan's independence movement. This ultimately led to the secession of East Pakistan as the independent state of Bangladesh on December 16, 1971, under the leadership of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. This was an enormous blow to Pakistan, geographically shrinking the country and reducing its population significantly. On December 20th, 1971, President Yahya Khan transferred power to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who became the president and chief martial law administrator of what remained of Pakistan. Bhutto assumed the mantle of president and later prime minister on December 20th under a new constitution, creating a semi-presidential system with broad executive powers. His leftist Pakistan People's Party dominated politics thereafter. On July 5th, 1977, General Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq seized power from Prime Minister Bhutto in a bloodless coup, following protests over election-breaking allegations. Bhutto was later convicted and executed on dubious charges, altering Pakistan's trajectory significantly. President Zia-ul-Haq was killed on August 17, 1988, along with senior military commanders when their plane exploded minutes after takeoff. Foul play was widely suspected but never proven. Zia's death sparked fresh political instability and renewed push for democracy. Between 1988 and 1993, governments under Benazir Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif alternated through elections and power tussles. While representing tentative steps towards sustainable democracy, accusations of corruption and incompetence persisted during this period. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's push to replace Army Chief Pervez Musharraf prompted Musharraf to seize power on October 12, 1999, in a bloodless coup while Sharif was overseas. Musharraf became president and chief executive. Sharif was later exiled after a treason conviction. Musharraf resigned on August 18, 2008 to avoid possible impeachment after a coalition government took charge earlier in 2008 and his political allies deserted him. His rule had become untenable under combined opposition pressure and dismal popularity. Civilian rule was restored with the Pakistan People's Party's Asif Ali Zardari becoming president. Later, governments alternated between PPP and Nawaz Sharif's PML-N through reasonably free and credible elections under an increasingly assertive judiciary. Long-time opposition leader Imran Khan was elected Prime Minister in 2018, signaling a new political direction. Khan headed a PTI-led coalition government. In 2022, Imran Khan's government was removed after losing a no-confidence vote on April 10th. Shahbaz Sharif of PML-N replaced him as Prime Minister on April 11th. Intra-government friction and pressure from the military establishment paved the way for Imran Khan's ouster. Pakistan's military has fought three major wars with India over the disputed territory of Kashmir. These wars were in 1965, 1971, and the intense Kargil conflict in 1999. The 1965 and 1971 wars involved direct clashes between Pakistani and Indian forces over Kashmir, while the 99 Kargil conflict saw Pakistani troops cross the line of control in Kashmir, sparking clashes. These wars bolstered the Pakistani army's domestic legitimacy as defenders of the nation against the traditional enemy or rival India. Besides these interstate wars, the military has also been involved in suppressing domestic insurgencies and militancy against Pakistan, militancy within Pakistan. This includes launching operations to quell the separatist insurgency in the resource-rich Balochistan province. It also includes Pakistan's controversial role of actively supporting and arming the Afghan Taliban after the 1979 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan with active encouragement and funds from the United States. However, after 9/11 and the US-led invasion of Afghanistan, Pakistan sided with the US as a key ally in the war on terror. In this way, it turned against the Pakistani Taliban and Al Qaeda groups which were operating along the porous Af-Pak border areas. The Pakistani military has used periodic eruptions of military tensions and security threats, both domestic and international, to justify its disproportionate dominance over Pakistan's national security policies, budgets, and nuclear doctrine. This has sidelined the foreign policy, bureaucracy, and civilian perspective in favor of a security centric view driven by the military establishment. As unchallenged rulers of Pakistan, the military generals have become the Mughals in khaki of Pakistan. They control business assets worth over $100 billion in sectors like manufacturing, transport, and construction. The army wields power over natural resources and real estate allocation, giving it intangible control over politicians and businesses. Public welfare initiatives and disaster relief by army help it project a progressive outlook and win mass appeal for its activities. The military also runs schools, colleges, and hospitals across Pakistan, giving jobs to those dependent on it for livelihoods and access to services. The army has expanded infiltration into everyday lives of citizens, shaping public opinion. Despite periodic criticism and pushback around its outsized role, the military has displayed remarkable resilience, recovering cohesion and public trust even after apparent setbacks. For instance, after the 1971 loss to India, which led to the formation of Bangladesh and surrender of its 93,000 troops to India, the Pakistan army soon rebuilt itself, presenting the conflict as a political and not military failure, while promoting patriotism and Islam post war. Again, in the 21st century, when General Musharraf's long rule ended, the army accepted public anger over letting US forces capture Osama bin Laden inside Pakistan. But it soon regained its image as the protector of sovereignty of the country. For 75 years, the military has shaped Pakistani democracy and society through periods of both direct control and indirect influence from behind the scenes. Backed by business interests, it remains highly relevant despite periodic public disappointments. Based on the evolving socio-political dynamics in Pakistan, there are signs that the military traditional stranglehold over governance is weakening. However, it may be premature to suggest a total loss of army's influence in the foreseeable future. A few key factors should be considered. Public pushback against electoral manipulation in 2024 has definitely dented the army's image as the ultimate arbiter. Imran Khan's surge in popularity and defiance of the establishment has been a rare political challenge. Younger, urban, middle class electorate has led calls for genuine democracy rather than tacitly accepting army rule. This may progressively reduce the military's public credibility and acceptance if it tries overt political interventions. The military still retains levers of power and business interests permeating Pakistan's economy and institutions. Its role in national security policy making also remains pivotal. Deep state ties cultivated over decades won't unravel easily. Pakistan's recurring financial crisis and geostrategic vulnerabilities could enable future indirect military influence under the garb of restoring governance and sovereignty, their classic justification for political meddling. Even if civilians consolidate political power, going forward, they may have to strike deals with the generals, sacrificing some foreign policy making space and budgetary oversight to ensure functional governance. The odds are stacked against any civilian leader, which includes Imran Khan, completely shaking off the army tutelage. The army has learned its lessons and will do everything in its power to ensure that no politician with majority support ever becomes the Prime Minister of Pakistan. While the overt political manipulation in 2024 backfired, signifying the unelected establishment's absolute power stands challenged, It may be overly optimistic to expect the military to lose all control. The decades old power dynamic that has shaped the state's trajectory cannot dramatically unravel in just one electoral cycle. An incremental rebalancing seems more likely than a sweeping loss of influence. Constitutional reforms could speed up civilian supremacy in Pakistan's national affairs. But the military will certainly adapt to retain relevance through indirect channels. The stakes are too high for it to give up its hold on the levers of power.